All right, Ronan MMA, welcome back to the channel. Now, yesterday on two different shows, Daniel Cormier lets it be known that Conor McGregor vs. Michael Chandler is not yet official. Not only that, they don't have a bout agreement yet. Okay, now Michael Chandler actually kind of let this be known himself to the Mac Life, which Daniel Cormier will put up on the screen in this show, or at the very least his producers will. Okay, but also Daniel Cormier's source for this information is Michael Chandler himself, not just the interview with the Mac Life, but through text messages. Okay, now we're going to play the clips from both of those shows. And then also we're going to play a clip a little bit later of Daniel Cormier asking Ben Askren, in my opinion, a pretty important question. And it's one that I tend to agree with, which is that has Michael Chandler seriously overvalued this fight? Okay, I do think that he has a little bit, but either way, dude, we'll get to that a little bit later. So I'm going to play the clips of Daniel Cormier letting this be known right now. We will go from there.
Conor McGregor and Michael Chandler was made official by Dana White. They say they're fighting, they have a date, but what really stuck out, Chill, is that Michael Chandler said, I would not be surprised if all of a sudden that bout agreement comes over and says for the 165-pound title. You never know. It should be for a belt. Let's see if we don't make one up. Chip.
All right, now, first of all, dude, no, it shouldn't be, Michael Chandler. No, it shouldn't be. You don't even have a winning record inside the UFC, okay? You have only been able to beat Dan Hooker, which was an impressive victory, and a absolute walking corpse in Tony Ferguson, okay, who, by the way, hurt you. You were Tony Ferguson's best performance in this giant 7-fight skid that he was on, okay, which is, it's honestly a little pathetic, but regardless, dude, it should not be for a belt. Not only do you not have a winning record in the UFC, you're coming off of a loss. Also, Conor McGregor is coming off of 2 losses. Actually, I think you're coming off of 2 losses as well. But either way, dude, no, it shouldn't be for a belt. Okay, that's one. Now, I don't know that he intended to let this information out, but I would not be surprised if all of a sudden that bout agreement comes over, which means he hasn't gotten it yet, okay, which is fucking insane, 1. 2, this is normal, kind of. We've seen this from the UFC before. We recently saw it with Benoit Saint-Denis and Dustin Poirier, where Dustin Poirier hadn't actually signed a contract yet, but they announced the fight and put it on the card and all that, right? Which is what the UFC has done with this fight, which, you know, maybe they're trying to strong arm Conor into signing something, or maybe they're trying to, who knows what's going on. But either way, dude, the bout has not, there's no contract yet. What the fuck, dude? That's insane to me, okay? Insane to me. And Michael Chandler is acting like he is, you know, he was right all along. He was, you know, everybody saying he wasn't going to get this fight, blah, 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 blah. Buddy, you haven't even got a fucking contract yet, okay? Listen, dude, I'll get to it later. Let's play the clip now from Daniel Cormier and Ben Askren talking about this, okay?
All right, before I let you go, Ben, a lot of fights got announced. Your boy Chandler finally gets his fight.
Finally!
Hey, bro, but then I heard something that said the contract is still not signed.
Oh, my goodness.
They said there's no deal in place, but we're hoping it's June 29th.
Yeah, I mean, right, that's been, you said something earlier about theater. That has been theater. That has been a drama of getting that bout scheduled and on the calendar. It appears to be on the calendar. You're saying maybe not. Taking it long enough. Hope it happens. It'll be a big fight. And, you know, but it honestly does make me nervous. It's only 2.5 months away, but it's like, you know, an injury or a sit, you know, like I feel like a lot can still happen in 2.5 months. Like, it's almost one of those, you don't want to believe it till they're actually like walking the cage, or maybe after they weigh in, and you're like, okay, now we got it.
Ben.
So I kind of agree with that, right? Like, when I thought, when this fight was announced and I thought that it was completely, totally official, both contracts have been signed on either side and what have you, I was like, okay, Conor McGregor's not ever pulled out of a fight that I can remember, right? I don't think that Michael Chandler has, at the very least, since he's been in the UFC. So I was like pretty confident that this fight would be happening. But finding out that there's no bout agreement, okay, and that the UFC has just gone ahead and announced this fight as the main event for International Fight Week or whatever, right? 303. Is insane, and now I am a little concerned, okay, because there is a lot of time in between now and then. A lot could happen. These negotiations could completely fucking fall on their face, and Michael Chandler could be waiting another year for a fight that might not happen, okay, which is hilarious. And we're going to get into that right now, because Daniel Cormier poses a pretty interesting question, or at the very least an important question, okay, one that a lot of people have been talking about this entire time now. I don't know if anybody remembers, but Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier 2. Okay, Dustin Poirier absolutely made a bigger base salary than he has ever made in any fight previously. Okay, but he didn't have to wait 2 years for that fight. That's one. 2, He did not get pay-per-view points for the first fight. He has said this himself. There was a clause in the contract that stated if he was to beat Conor McGregor, then he would get pay-per-view points. I think it even had to be a finish, perhaps. He would get pay-per-view points in the trilogy bout, right? In the rematch after the fact. Now, he bet on himself, went out there, finished Conor McGregor, and then was able to get pay-per-view points in the next fight, making a much larger payday, okay? I could see that being the case. I could see that same clause being the case, same stipulation for Michael Chandler, especially because Dustin Poirier, at the time, is a way bigger star than Michael Chandler. Don't fucking at me, dude, okay? That's just true. Michael Chandler, dude was just on the Sean Ryan podcast. I tried my very best to listen to it, hoping for a tidbit, something in there that I could make a video on. And he damn near put me to sleep. And I had that bitch on 2x speed, okay? Very exciting in the cage. I will give him that. His promotion is dog shit. Everything he fucking says that takes, a single answer will take 5 minutes. It could take a minute and it could be made a lot more exciting. He likes to flaunt his vocabulary, okay? As if he's got a thesaurus in his back pocket at all fucking times. It is mind-blowingly boring, okay? That's just a fact. Michael Chandler is not the superstar that Dustin Poirier was. So I would not be surprised even a little bit if Michael Chandler was not even getting pay-per-view points for this fight. At which point we have to ask ourselves, was waiting all this time actually worth it? And Daniel Cormier is going to pose that question to Ben Askren right now. So I'm going to play that for you, then we'll talk about it a little bit after that.
Do you think that Michael Chandler has overvalued this fight a little bit? Because now he makes a lot of money, right? He could have fought 2 to 3 times by the time this fight takes place. Is he going to make 3 times the money for this fight? Or is he essentially going to just break even now because he's been sitting on the shelf for so long that he was missing money?
Well, I don't know. I don't know his contract, so I can't comment on that. But I also think it's highly dependent on the outcome. If he loses, and honestly, the loser of this fight is going to get knocked out.
So, by the way, I just want to say this before we go any further, because I do want it to play a little bit longer. Daniel Cormier was being quite conservative there, right? If he's been waiting 2 years for this fight, he could have potentially had 6 fights in that time. 2 fights a year, and that's still being conservative, right? If he wasn't overly damaged in those fights, he could have had maybe 3 fights a year. Do you know what I mean? Wait, that would be 6 anyways. My fucking bad, dude. Either way, 4 to 6 fights he could have potentially had in that 2-year span. My math just went fucking dog shit, bro. Worse than Daniel Cormier's, but either way, I apologize for that. He could have had 4 to 6 fights in that time. It's been 2 years, okay? 2 years. And Michael Chandler's the type of guy that almost every time he fights, he gets a bonus. Not only that, dude. If he had not been waiting out for Conor McGregor this entire time, he could have potentially been on UFC 300 fighting Justin Gaethje in a rematch for the BMF belt, because their fight, if I'm not mistaken, did get awarded Fight of the Year when it happened. Okay, that would have been an easy fight to sell, easy co-main event for UFC 300. It would have been, just as exciting, maybe even more, because maybe it would have been a little bit more competitive, and I would have enjoyed watching Justin Gaethje probably beat up Michael Chandler for a second time. But there were a lot of fights that he could have potentially had. Dude, there are a lot of fighters, not a lot, but there are some fighters that get the label of a cuck. Okay, at what fucking point are we going to start calling Michael Chandler a cuck? He has quite literally been sitting, in a certain chair, watching the sport just pass him by, waiting for Conor McGregor, right? And like I said, if it's been 2 years, if he fought 2 to 3 times a year, he could have potentially had 4 to 6 fights in that time. Daniel Cormier said he might break even with 3 fights, right? 4 to 6, that's a lot of money that he missed out on for a fight that he might not even be getting pay-per-view points in.
Yeah, right. This is not going to a decision. That is not happening. So if he loses, it's probably not all that great of a decision. Conor's not even ranked right now. He goes down. And to your point, he could have fought more and made more money. If he wins, then I think that could propel him to, a bigger contract in the future, more money, et cetera, et cetera. But he's another one. I think he actually turns 38 next week. So, does he get pay-per-view points? That's one.
That's the question.
Dana doesn't like giving that out, so maybe not.
That is the question. Dude, that is the question. He's not a champion. He won't ever be a champion. He's not even in the top 5 anymore. Thank fucking God, because he shouldn't have been there in the first place, okay? He got bumped out after UFC 300. He should have never been there. Again, has a losing record in the UFC, okay? Has only beaten Dan Hooker and the walking corpse of Tony Ferguson, who almost finished him in the first round, okay? So, I could... It is, in my opinion, probable that he won't be getting pay-per-view points. If Donald Cowboy Cerrone didn't get pay-per-view points, maybe that's just a management issue. Why the fuck would Michael Chandler, okay? Honestly. Yes, he's probably more exciting. Probably going to be a bit more of a competitive fight. Maybe. But Donald Cowboy Cerrone was a fan favorite. Held a bunch of records. Bonuses out the fucking asshole, okay? Very popular individual. If he's not getting pay-per-view points, again, why the fuck would Michael Chandler be?
Not. Maybe that's why he's waiting so long. I don't know. So, man,
See Daniel Cormier? No.
I think it's too hard to say. There's too many variables at this point.
I don't know why you would give pay-per-view points to someone that's not going to drive the sales. Like,
absolutely fucking based from Daniel Cormier. I see a lot of people shitting on him in the comment section for this, and I did shit on Daniel Cormier, just a few days ago for his take on the Jamal Hill fight at UFC 300. This is absolutely fucking based. Michael Chandler ain't selling shit. As a matter of fact, I think that one of the reasons they've been waiting so long, I know a lot of people are speculating about drug tests and what have you, this and that. I think it's in large part due to the fact that Conor McGregor is probably bored at the idea of fighting Michael Chandler. Okay, I think that the only reason Michael Chandler was picked in the first place was because he is he is DC's Ryan Bader. The easiest fight in the division, at the very least at the top of the division. Okay, the best stylistic matchup for him. A guy who leaves openings like you wouldn't fucking believe, okay, to be countered and cracked with. I will do a video on that shortly, okay, not today, but sometime in the very near future, on how many openings Michael Chandler leaves for a guy like a Conor McGregor. But regardless, dude, why would you give a guy pay-per-view points who isn't going to sell fucking one of them? Maybe that's obviously exaggerating, but Jesus Christ, dude. The guy is not that kind of superstar. He's exciting to fight. We'll watch him when he's on a pay-per-view card, abso-fucking-lutely, okay? But the only reason anybody's going to be buying this card, or at the very least, the vast majority, 90% of people, is for Conor McGregor, okay? Michael Chandler can account for a 1/100th of the pay-per-views that'll get sold, and I don't think that's an exaggeration.
And it's not me hating on Mike. Mike's
well,
not gonna,
he is exciting, but I see your point.
He's not driving the sales on this one, right? When you fight Conor
fair.
McGregor, Conor's driving the sales. He's obviously going to be a part of the pay-per-view and part of the business, but very
Well,
rarely.
can I push back here real quick on you? It would, and I feel like I make people mad at me, but I feel like Michael is a very compelling opponent for Conor right now, and we know that someone's likely to get knocked out. As opposed to, like, remember when he fought Cerrone, and everyone's like, they just want to give him an easy one kind of thing. Like,
I think that, bro, I'm not even a Conor fan, and I think that this is an easy one. Okay, I just do. And again, I'll break down the fight footage in the near future, but Jesus Christ, okay? And I see people in the comment sections, as I said, shitting on Daniel Cormier for this, being like, oh, you should have said that when you fought Jones. This is a dog shit comparison, first of all. Daniel Cormier did not get pay-per-view points the first time he fought John Jones. John Jones was a champion. Daniel Cormier was a fucking, he was known from Strikeforce, but I believe he was making about 150 to show 150 to win at that time. He was a contender, okay? The second time he fought John, he was the champion because your boy John Jones fucked up and lost the belt being a dirtbag, okay? So that makes no sense whatsoever. And that rivalry did sell. There is no real rivalry here. And then I see people talking about, well, oh, Chandler did the tough and this and that, so he deserves it. Does he, though? Does he? Also, that was a good long fucking while ago. That ain't doing shit for the pay-per-views. Not even a little bit. Had the fight happen immediately after, tough ended, perhaps. Not now, though. Not now. So, at what point are we going to call Michael Chandler a cuck? Because as I said, dude, he could have had potentially 4 to 6 fights in that time, right? Maybe we'll stick with 4 because he does tend to get pretty fucking damaged in all of his fights. He could have been on UFC 300. He could have been the one getting the $300,000 bonus against Justin Gaethje. Okay, honestly, it's mind-blowing to me. Maybe he is getting pay-per-view points, but he doesn't even know that because there's no bout agreement. So, dude, at what point are we going to call Michael Chandler the cuck of all cucks? Okay? And he is also Conor McGregor's biggest fan. Now, that's it, dude. I found this to be quite interesting, and I also thought that it didn't get nearly as much attention as it should have because I don't even think Michael Chandler meant to let that slip. Or at the very least, I don't think he meant to expose the fact that he hasn't even got a contract yet. Okay? I think that he speaks too much. That's the problem. When he gets asked a question, he has to go into this like elaborate, detailed response with a bunch of adjectives and metaphors and similes and all this fucking shit, because he wants to come across as he said on the Sean Ryan podcast, equal to his opponent linguistically. Okay? But he's just not, and he let it slip that he hasn't even got a contract. So anyways, dude, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. I would greatly appreciate it. Like and subscribe, all that good shit. See you at the next one. Bye-bye.